Hello, my name is Michael Gall. I work at Richard Grubman Associates. I'm the principal senior archaeologist at the firm. Tonight's presentation is called At Battle's Edge, Archaeology of Peripheral Terrain at the Battle of Monmouth. Fought on June 28th, 1778, the Battle of Monmouth in New Jersey was a pivotal moment for General George Washington and his Continental Army. In his attempt to slow the British retreat across the colony towards New York City, Washington finally caught up with General Clinton's massive army. The two forces met on the battlefield in the early hours of June 28th, after 2 days of scouting, harassments, and picket attacks. The next morning, the British forces left the battlefield, continuing on their planned route to New York. Washington retained the field of battle, claiming it as an American victory, which was later debated. Voluminous works on the battle often focus on the main battlefield, which you can see outlined in this dashed black area. This is formerly the Monmouth Battlefield Historic District, which is also a National Historic Landmark. Less focus has been placed on the battlefield periphery areas and how these locations shape the flow of battle events. Recent metal detection surveys and military terrain analyses carried out for a road widening project. The road widening project is located here in light blue, just west of the main battlefield at and near the Old Tenant Church, which is right about here. Granted a unique opportunity to focus on one peripheral battlefield area and how it shaped the June 28th event. Surveys conducted by the Battlefield Restoration and Archaeological Volunteer Organization, also known as BRAVO, in 2004, 2005, and 2013 as a private battlefield study, and later by Richard Grubman Associates in 2017 and 2018 for a road improvement project focused in areas along the 19th century road corridor, also known as County Route 3. In this slide, you can see County Route 3 located in the background here. And here you can also see County Route 3 located here. And there's a couple of sites that I'm going to discuss. This orange boundary is the Monmouth Battlefield Historic District boundary, which extends in an eastward direction towards Freehold. Archaeologically, Bravo and Richard Grubman Associates identified a site here, and through earlier studies, Bravo had identified three loci or three site areas containing musket balls and other ordnances in this area, and an area to the southeast, such as off this slide. Two musket ball concentrations were found on each side of the road, as I just explained, near the church, designated in white. So these site areas are designated in white. To the west, in a large farm field, is the Gentile farm site, which is this area in here. And note too, the musket ball and other military related materials are shown as these yellow dots. To the east of the road are three loci associated with the Old Tenant Church site. The 19th century road corridor is an artificial division that divided and bisected the large site complex, portions of which could not be surveyed. They could not be surveyed because there's an active cemetery in this area. There's also residential properties that did not grant access to the survey, to the private surveys located here. The formal survey that was conducted for County Route 537, County Route 3, was primarily situated within the road right-of-way. So you can see that here. Analysis revealed that each site yielded different caliber musket balls, suggesting evidence of an engagement between opposing forces. While the main battlefield to the east contained notably dense military material that was recovered and surveyed by Bravo, as well as the New Jersey State Park staff, the identified peripheral musket ball clusters required further research and military terrain analysis to better understand. The results shed light on the pivotal nature of the location to the battlefield and events that followed. Primary documents, especially court-martial for the Continental Army Major General Charles Lee, describe an hour-by-hour sequence of the June 28th engagement, along with troop movements, some skirmishes, and harassments for the 2 days leading up to the battle. Comparatively little is stated about this western peripheral area, with the exception of passing references, some diary entries, maps, and letters, leaving us largely to rely upon the artifacts for interpretation, and as is the case with most archaeological sites. This is just a slide showing the Continental Army near Englishtown, as well as the British Army, which was encamped in Freehold. And this is the area where they met in Alpen. Days prior to the battle, Clinton's 20,800 person strong British Army had evacuated Philadelphia and began a 90-mile trek across New Jersey towards New York City. Washington's army and its militia were in hot pursuit. The New Jersey militia served as Washington's vanguard to harass and slow the British and allow the Americans time to engage. On June 26th, the British encamped in Freehold, spread across a 4.5-mile arch. And you can see that here. So this is the old Burlington Path, this road shown in white, which is now no longer present. It's been replaced by County Route 537, which you can see in this area. To the west, north, and south, the 1,200 person strong American militia occupied the Church Knoll, which is shown in this star, important intersections, as well as 2 mills. Day and night, the American militia and British scouted each other's positions and skirmished, while the American army amassed in encampments in Englishtown to the west, as well as in Cranberry in this area. Undulating terrain, ridges, knolls, and ravines characterize the area between the church here and Freehold to the east. West of the church, in this area, was a relatively broad, flat plain. Therefore, control of the church knoll at the crossroads, and you can see the crossroads here, leading from Englishtown to Freehold, and then out to Middletown, which is what Kristen will discuss next, was critical to the flow of events to follow. If the church knoll was taken by the British, an American eastward advance from Englishtown towards Freehold would have been easily thwarted. Militia use of the church knoll likely occurred between 1 o'clock and 7:30 p.m. on June 26th, when Major General Philmon Dickinson ordered Colonel Don Nielsen of the 2nd Middlesex Brigade to lead a militia detachment of 200 men from Englishtown towards the church. By June 27th, the staging ground was established at the knoll with 700 men, among whom included the Hunterdon militia. In Englishtown to the west, Major General Charles Lee, with 4,500 troops, joined Lafayette's 3,687 men, while Washington remained with 7,800 men farther west. That day, several skirmishes broke out. Lieutenant Heinrich Karl Philipp von Felich, an Ansbach Jaeger, wrote that the British pickets had all been attacked at that time, forcing some Hessian pickets to temporarily fall back due to rebel forays. For the militia, the church offered a defensible locale. To the west side of the church, and the hill upon which the church was perched, provided cover and concealment for the militia. The top story and steeple windows. Let me just go back one slide, actually. So this is the top story window. This is the steeple window, just for reference for the next slides. The top story and steeple windows could have enabled the militia to view Perrines Hill to the east and command a broad view of the terrain toward, but not as far east as Freehold, as shown on this slide in red. So this is a viewshed analysis map. This is taken from, or based on the top story window that I just showed you. So if someone was standing in that top story and looking out the window, based on terrain, the topography, as well as documented tree lines, the area in red is what they would have been able to see. You can see Freehold to the east here. Englishtown would have been to the west here. So this area in red is what they would have been able to see if they were standing and looking out of the top window. For reference also, this is Perrines Hill. It's a large hill that blocks the view from the church towards Freehold, and Combs Hill also. These are two large hills upon which the Continental Army established artillery to cannonade the British. And here's a second viewshed analysis map. And this is taken from the church spire. So it's about 10 feet up. This image here is is not from the church spire, it's from the top story window. So this is what you could see from that top story window looking towards Englishtown in the background. There would have been fewer trees at that time. So you probably could have seen quite a distance, but not to Englishtown. And this on the right is the viewshed analysis map, again, based on documented tree lines and terrain as to what may have been possible to see from the church spire at the time. Again, this is Freehold to the east, Englishtown to the west, and the church is here. Documentation of reconnoitering from the church steeple height was not found, but the possibility does exist that it may have been used in this way. From this position, Dickinson's militia could easily and feasibly reconnoiter British locations and remain informed about friendly troop movements despite problems caused by deserters. In fact, an American deserter informed the British of militia positions on the evening of June 27th. That night and the following dawn, both forces continually sent out scouting parties, likely engaging in undocumented skirmishes. British foraging parties also combed the area, and this was critical to the British Army in order to feed the 20,000 men and women that were encamped in Freehold. Historic maps reveal that wood cover near the church could have concealed British parties arriving from the north and northwest, particularly under cover of night. Evidence suggests, however, that not all were concealed. Just before dawn at 4:30 a.m. on June 28th, the British began to break camp in Freehold. Within 2 hours, the American forces under General Lee marched from Englishtown to the church and were set to engage. There, troops halted for passing artillery. At 7 a.m., fighting commenced on the battlefield. Within an hour, confusion had erupted among the Americans through Lee's poor communication, giving the appearance of an American retreat as the British advanced on the battlefield to the east. Arriving on the scene, Washington was furious, released Lee of his command, and set about repositioning troops and artillery to Perrines Hill to the east, as you can see here, as well as to Combs Hill to the southeast in this area, where he could cannonade the British and prevent further enemy advancement. The timely tactical maneuver worked, and the Americans held their position until fighting ended at 7 p.m. that night. To prevent British from flanking from the rear and attacking the American baggage train in Englishtown, the Americans positioned a second line of troops in the woods west of the church. So you can see the church here. This is where the second line of troops was positioned during and after the battle to prevent the British from flanking this way, and then attacking the American baggage train in Englishtown. By midnight, Clinton's troops were en route to Middletown. Oh, and I should say that the flank never occurred. But by midnight, Clinton's troops were en route to Middletown, and the church grounds were used as a field hospital in the morning. Archaeology indicates that an engagement took place near the church despite absence of documentation. There, 28 musket balls were recovered west of the church, along with a possible cartridge box finial, a firing mechanism, cannonballs, and a base to canister shot. One 75 caliber ball contained scrape marks from extraction forceps, likely used to remove a ball from a wounded soldier. The clustered balls from the Gentile farm site, which you can see in this area, again, this is the church, include 5 round and 10 impacted balls. One ball was also of lead or pewter alloy, which Americans produced when lead was in short supply. With the exception of one round 68 caliber ball, possibly used for a British Brown Bess, all others from the Gentile farm site were between 47 and 59 calibers in size, suggesting use with American rifles. The location of that 68 caliber ball is here. And I just want to point out that there was a cartridge box finial that was found in this area, both of which were found by Bravo. Dan Sivlich's research at the American encampment at Englishtown reveals that the Continental Army was primarily equipped with the French infantry musket model of 1763, or the Charleville musket, which the French supplied the Americans in 1777. The Charleville musket took balls ranging from 60 to 66 calibers in size. Civilich's research also indicates that the Continental Army used rifles, and the British Army was equipped with a short and long land service musket, or Brown Bess. This musket fired 67 to 71 caliber balls and was also used by the American Army. American militia, however, used a variety of rifles loaded with balls smaller than 59 caliber in size, which match all but one of the dropped or unimpacted 69 caliber ball found west of County Route 3. The British also used smaller weapons, including the British Light Dragoon carbine and saddle pistol, and British and German Dragoon pistols. The Old Tenant Church site to the east yielded 8 musket balls, 1 grape shot canister base, and 1 6-pound cannonball. But large areas of the church could not be metal detected, so the true size of the site is unclear. The cannonball and grape shot canister base found along County Route 3 likely represent British artillery overshot cannon fire that had been initially aimed towards Prine Hill, but overshot the hill and landed by the church. One impacted musket ball, unavailable for analysis, which was found in this area, suggests an engagement at or near the property. 8 other balls were found west and south of the church, including a wound extracted 75 caliber ball, which was located in this area. Of the remainder, 2 are round and 5 are impacted, calibers for which include 55, 63, 65, and just over 66. The larger may have been fired from a British or German Dragoon pistol or weapon of similar barrel size. Indeed, we know that the Hessians were present on the battlefield based on diary entries and a cartridge box plate, which is shown here, that was found at the intersection of State Route 33 and Millhurst Road. So that we know that there were additional Hessian soldiers that were in proximity to the church during the time of the battle. The size range of the musket balls from the Old Tenant Church site differ from those at the Gentile Farm site and suggest opposing forces firing at each other. One hypothesis is that Americans using rifles fired smaller caliber balls west of County Route 3, while British or Hessians using Dragoon pistols, carbines, or fusils with larger caliber balls fired east of County Route 3. The 4 63 caliber balls found east of the road could have been fired by Hessian fusiliers. Survey coverage gaps, however, make this hypothesis tentative. Alternatively, American forces using rifles and Charleville muskets positioned at the church knoll fired upon enemy scouts and foragers to the west and south. Muskets were generally only accurate up to 80 to 100 yards, though rifles were accurate up to 300 to 400 yards. It's probable that the concentrated rifle ball cluster found west of County Route 3, so it was a cluster that was found in this area, represent more accurate attempts to target and eliminate an enemy near the location of the round Brown Bess ball and cartridge box finial. Did they hit their target? We'll simply never know. The presence of an impacted musket ball at the southeast corner of the church also suggests an active engagement took place. Regardless of the scenario, it is clear that the American militia and possibly Continental troops controlled the higher ground at the church during the engagement, which likely took place just prior to the battle after the American militia had gained control of the church and its knoll. Munitions found suggest the engagement occurred between American forces on the knoll and a likely British or Hessian scouting or foraging party detected in the woods to the west. If the balls found south of the church represent shot fired by Charleville muskets, it would then appear that the enemy party may have moved in a southeast direction from the woods to the road from Englishtown to Freehold, so down this way, in an attempt to seek safety near the British line to the east. None of the detailed American accounts from the day of or just prior to the battle reference a skirmish at this location, but small skirmishes were not well documented, and we do know that several did take place. The survey data revealed that an engagement did take place and forced a closer examination of the peripheral battlefield area. The analysis and research indicate an American militia the American militia, early recognized the benefits of controlling the elevated defensible position at Old Tenet Church. The church height could have provided an excellent defensible position to reconnoiter enemy positions around the knoll, and the ability for the militia to gather undetected on the west side of the knoll. The elevated position also offered a commanding view of the terrain to the west, and the ability to secure a crossroads access point leading to the American vanguard in Englishtown to the west. Successful control of this position was an element that greatly benefited the outcome of the battle in Washington's favor. Archaeology indicates that the American forces successfully defended this position from a likely enemy party in the days or hours just prior to the battle. Should the British have controlled this elevated ground, the American army would have been unable to successfully advance from Englishtown towards Monmouth Courthouse or Freehold to the east, likely resulting in a drastically different outcome or avoidance of a major engagement altogether. As a result of the survey, the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office issued an eligibility opinion on the Gentile farm site, which resulted in an extension to the Monmouth Battlefield historic property boundary, which you can see as represented by this orange dashed line. So this is the extension to the historic district. The survey could not have been completed without the help of numerous individuals, agencies, and departments, as well as firms. And I'd like to acknowledge everybody that was involved in this project. Thank you very much.